Eagles fly. I can't believe I kind of have a voice. That is a miracle in terms of Super Bowls. And the most dominating, crazy win, Philadelphians. Tell me how you're feeling. I can barely talk. I can barely put sentences together. As I sit here in my hotel room, like so many media members, on the morning after, breaking down what was like, did that really happen? Let's dig into it. Blowout, lopsided. Oh my gosh. And is Hamilton available for me today, or are we still? Sammy, Hammy, are you around? Thank you.
I'm here.
Ham, boring? Question mark. You know, I know you're, but like casual, no sweat. Like I was sweating more walking to the stadium than any Eagles fan did at any moment in that game. There were.
It is tough when the drama gets sucked out of it that early because it was so dominant from Philly. So, I mean, yeah, the second half there wasn't a lot there was a lot of drama there to keep you going. If you're a casual fan, yeah, for sure.
We have so much to talk about. Philadelphia Eagles are your Super Bowl champions, something that has left this mouth on our show many times this year, and sticking to their identity, pounding the rock, staying true to themselves, how we putting this team together, these rookie DBs making plays. It was all happening for the Birds last night. We have Super Bowl champion Dwight Freeney joining me. Hamilton will be here with his thoughts. Yeah, what a performance. Blowout, lopsided, unbelievable. And we've seen bigger ones on the biggest stages, but a lot of those, you know, we kind of saw coming. We anticipated them. This one, to absolutely rip apart this Chiefs team, which we can say 15-win team, all that. The team that was so locked in on a three-peat, to be that said buzzsaw, is stunning and amazing. And you know, the first thing I thought of when we got on our 5 a.m. call to Matthew Hamilton was, let's talk about Vic Fangio. I'm so happy for Vic Fangio. These 6 sacks, 2.5 from Josh Sweat, by the way, who's about to get broken off in free agency. I don't know what you're thinking, Howie, or any other team that might want him. The 2 picks, the pick 6. The only time I've seen Mahomes look anywhere near that uncomfortable was Tampa. I was thinking I was in the streets. I was chopping it up with Drew Brees. I was like, what is it? This reminds me of Tampa Drew Brees. And he said, oh, good call, okay. Defensive masterpiece. Uncomfortable. And I loved seeing it for Vic Fangio and some of these defensive pieces. He has consistently been a tremendous defensive coordinator, and anybody saying or thinking any different is crazy. It has been decades and decades, and I'm just the biggest fan, so I'm happy about him with that. But I also wanted to get to this. There's this part of it, too, which makes it even more incredible. Pop up this full screen. Kansas City almost completely took Saquon out of this game. That, you can say, like, oh, of course, like we thought the Eagles would win and all that, but everyone was naming Saquon the game changer, the MVP of this thing. If you told people before this one that Saquon would be held to 2.3 yards per carry, I don't think anybody would think that that results in a Philly win, let alone absolute domination start to finish. It all speaks to just the complete nature of this squad. It's something that I was questioning in the second half of the season, with everybody not jumping on board with them being the most balanced, complete team. I sound like a grandma or like a broken record on this year in, year out. Like, I always fall in love with the complete team. How good are you top to bottom? Not the star quarterback, not the most whatever. Like, it's how complete are you? And oh my gosh, Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts was amazing all game long. The defense for the Chiefs, guys, they put Philly behind the sticks early, often. Jalen responded pretty much every time. Outside of one pick, he beat the brakes off of the Spags blitzes, which I didn't see coming. He used his legs for key third downs. We loved seeing that. He was converting those left and right. He leads the Eagles in rushing, by the way, in this game yesterday. How amazing is that? He hit the 46-yard dagger, took the air out of the place. Fly Eagles Fly played for the millionth time. 46-yarder late in the third quarter. Every Chiefs fan was stunned that I was sitting next to or near, or, you know, texting me like, Jalen could not have played better last night. He could not have played better. And there's nothing left for anybody to say about him. He is a made man, okay? 4 years as a starter, 4 trips to the playoffs, 2 trips to the Super Bowl, and now he has a Super Bowl and MVP repeat. That is unbelievable. He's also the third quarterback in history, as you're seeing, to start and win both a Super Bowl and a national championship alongside Montana and Namath here. Rare company. I was trying to put this story out. Rare company. He's so young, and he's had such a journey. He takes over, starting job, freshman at Bama, leads them to a title game. This is a bona fide winner. And I don't know how we'll look at him now a little bit, I guess, differently, more respectfully. He kind of got a lot of grief, but he's in a class, a rare class. And I love seeing it. And Hammy, you can go back for this. We were talking about this on the call this morning. We went to that camp 2 years ago after the loss, where he played really well. Like, he's a winner. He shows up. Big games don't, there was no falling apart for him in this. We went to camp, we were talking about on the morning call. And he was all I remember from that trip 2 years ago was him desolate, sort of like disassociated. He had headphones on. He was zoned in. He didn't even want to really say hi. The whole energy was just, man, this has jilted him in some way. That loss, as Brady told Colin Cowherd so eloquently this week about how losses in these big games really stick with you and what that means to players. I mean, he's tasted it. Mahomes has tasted it. Jalen Hurts has tasted it. To see this like vindication, to see this, and Nicole Lynn right away tweets, "Thank you, Jesus," in all caps. I went to her Twitter and looked. I wanted to see what's the reaction from her, from that entire side. And just, I loved seeing it. Sirianni had these guys when we were there this past year. At the end of July, we also didn't talk to Jalen, Mr. Locked In. First day of pads, we're talking to Nick about the vibe this year, and the relentless word kept coming up. I watched the interview this morning, and it was the theme of camp. What do you remember? I know that, Brandon Graham had a lot to do with that too.
Yeah, I remember Mekhi Becton having a tough time in practice. There was some projectiling going on from Eagles players because of how tough the camp was. But yeah, Brandon Graham had a lot to say. He seemed kind of locked in on a Super Bowl that was on his mind constantly. He kept bringing it up throughout that interview. The tone of practice just being so serious, so locked in, so intense was such a big thing. And the guys really believed like that was going to get them to exercise those demons from last year and turn the page and turn the corner and make a run back at a Super Bowl. You could feel it talking to those guys that day, that they were just, the Super Bowl was clearly in their minds. This wasn't some like, oh, let's take it one day at a time, get ready for the season. Like, they were on a mission from July. Yeah, and they were amazing all season, and now we had Brandon Graham, being part of this, and let's just even play just the energy and the vibe from a long time ago to sort of just our personal Up and Adamsy connection to all of this.
I mean, they see what it's like. They see what it took for us to get there, but we got to finish the deal. Everybody felt that 2022 loss. Halftime, we was feeling good, but by the end of the game, we didn't finish it, and that stung. And for me, I want to get back to that. I want to get to that point again, and I know we got to finish that job. And I think with all the guys that we got on this team that felt that, I mean, you have no excuse as far as, you know what it takes. Now we got to decide to do it.
This gives me goosebumps. This was over 6 months ago. He spoke this into existence, you guys, over and over and over. It's a miracle he even played in this game with his triceps thing. He didn't get the sack of Mahomes that he told us he wanted, but he did pressure him a few times. He tackled him once, and he said after the game he was not ready to have the retirement convo yet. But, I mean, if this was it, Brandon Graham, we love you. Congratulations. You've got a hell of a future ahead of you in media and whatever you want to do, or keep playing and do what you want to do. What a way to go out. We're going to be breaking this down, of course. I need to get Howie on the show. All I want is to talk to Howie about this and this situation you put together. Doing this in the year after you lose one of the greatest players at any, like the Kelsey thing. How are you going to fill this hole? That was a huge storyline all offseason. I'll see and they, doing it the way that they did and pulling Saquon and DeGene in his amazing moment. Just like Eagles fans must be losing their absolute minds. And then on the Chiefs side of things, there's a lot to unpack here as well. For the game itself, just the decision to become one-dimensional while this game was still close was something I was not expecting, and something that Dwight Freeney, a Super Bowl champion, will of course dig into, because this Eagles D-line was doing their thing, making everyone uncomfortable. They called, though, the Chiefs 12 passes to 1 run on their first 13 plays. And that's what, if you go into Hamilton and I's text exchanges and running around the stadium, that feels like not the move. It let Philly and this pass rush sort of, pin its ears back and go to work. And let's take a look at some of the highlights here, right? A lot of issues brought up through the year on this side. Heavy lifting, Chiefs kept winning. We're not going to bet against the Chiefs, and no one should. They have the greatest quarterback going right now. Not his best night, of course. But these little issues that we were picking apart did show up last night, didn't they? The O-line. Mahomes not looking super comfortable with what was going on in protection, even when there wasn't pressure. If you really watched, right? Like the receivers outside of Worthy, not really helping, not making plays, the inability for the defense to create pressure on the quarterback without blitzing. The secondary was struggling to hold when they did bring pressure. It all seemed to go wrong at once. Travis Kelce talked about it. We haven't played this badly all year. And I think maybe they just didn't play Philly all year. And this complete team, they're a better team last night, and they won, right? Like I'm not trying to take anything away from the Eagles or, the year the Chiefs had, the 15-1 start, amazing, getting close to a three-peat, closer than anyone's ever gotten, right? Amazing. But this was as rough a performance as we've seen from this team that we've ever seen. And the only thing that I can really hearken it close to was Tampa and how uncomfortable it was, even though that was sort of a narrative going in there that pass rush might make him uncomfortable, all of that. Lots of conversations here, Ham, and it's what's next. Of course, I've been sort of interested in just by hearing Patrick talk throughout the season about the future and how important Kelce is to him and all of that. Like, what does that look like? Does this sort of the way this loss went? Like, we didn't, you can always lose a game. To lose like this, what does that do to Travis? Does that make him say, I'm not going out like this, I'm going to come back and I've got more to give? Or does he sort of know he's done and he's made peace with that? Like, that'll certainly be a story here. But, it's can they keep everyone together? What's ahead with Veach? Do they have another run in them? Do they go all in and try to get some more weapons? It sounds like a weird thing to say, but I had Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame bound people telling me yesterday that Patrick doesn't have the weapons. It's hard to believe. You bring in DeAndre, obviously you draft Worthy, not used quite the way that we might have expected him to. Maybe they can get back to that somehow. Do you buy into that he doesn't have the weapons he needs?
I mean, I think with Kelce not quite being the Kelce we've seen in the past, that's definitely a thing. Rashee Rice not being out there was a big thing for them as well. And who knows what his status is going to be for next year with everything he has going on. So I like Worthy a lot. He's been a really good piece for them all year. I don't know that he's necessarily that go-to guy. It may be something that they do have to address here because, the roster is constantly evolving. They got away with it without Tyreek because the defense was so incredibly dominant and they fixed the offensive line. But as those things are starting to shift, maybe they do go all in and try to get him another number one go-to guy, especially if Kelce walks away.
I wonder how Chiefs fans are feeling this morning, because the ones that, obviously like Amanda, my sister-in-law, my whole entire family, it's just like, oh, it's not our year. There is like, it's not house money, obviously, like they could have made history. I think that actually weighed really heavy on this and on the team. It might not have, it might have had something to do with all of this. But he is 29. So there's no question that you're going to go all in. It'll be an interesting offseason. I got to say, I like this revenge tour kind of vibe. Like, I like that we're going to have a little adversity for these champs. I embrace the Brady Mahomes GOAT conversation. I like we don't want it to all come easy to Patrick, to these Chiefs, to Andy. I like a little, I don't even know, like a little roughness to it. I think it's going to be a hell of a thing to watch with Kelce and company. But I don't know if you obviously work with the Chiefs, not with the Chiefs, but you covered the Chiefs on other platforms as well. Do you feel, what's the vibe there before we go to break? Just the vibe with, I guess, like Chiefs fans, how they should be feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's a lot of disappointment. They wanted this three-peat. They wanted to do what nobody's ever done. And I think it was weighing heavy. And I think there is a little bit of a disappointment with Patrick. Just, again, there were moments where there were plays to be made and there wasn't pressure, and he seemed to be thinking about the protection of what was going on in front of him, and he didn't take some of those shots downfield early, which we can get into a little later in the week too. But yeah, there's definitely a frustration there with what went on last night, and there are going to be a lot of conversations about what they need to do this offseason to get back there.
This Eagles D-line, we got to get into it. We're going to take a short break here. I'm going to eat some beignets. We have Dwight Freeney, who's going to want to talk about Patrick Mahomes, who's going to want to maybe weigh in on some of these conversations we're having. He doesn't love quarterbacks. Well, it certainly was a defensive performance of a lifetime for Freeney, for the Eagles. Let's do it. Love having Dwight's insights on the show. What was the most surprise? I mean, I would say well, you and I were texting just the not adjust, or what adjustment would you have wanted them to make? And we'll get Dwight in here too to obviously give us his take.
I mean, it was tough because once they got to that point where the play calling was so imbalanced, then you're chasing 3 scores. So it's hard to get back and start running the ball at that point. But again, I know it's so tough to run on the Eagles because that front is so good. But having a little more balance early, I think, could have made a little bit of a difference there. It was just Mahomes dropping back play after play. I mean, 12-1 is an insane ratio. And and they haven't been a great running team all year, but they've stuck with it. It's a part of their identity, even when it's not the most efficient. It keeps them ahead of the sticks, and they were behind the sticks the entire night. And there were that play that Mahomes pulled down and ended up, it looked like he was going to uncork a deep one and checked it down to Juju. I watched on tape this morning. He's got a one-on-one with Worthy in his 4.2 speed, and he's even with Quinyon Mitchell. I don't know why he didn't let that ball go. There's no one near him. He had a clean pocket. There were a few moments like that where it's like they could have seized some opportunities and some momentum early on, and they didn't make the plays they needed to make. And then it's spiraled.
I out of halftime thought that they could still win, and I thought this is what a story this is going to be. Would have been nice if they banged a field goal before half.
Yeah, that Bond interception was kind of what turned everything on. It's because if they got that field goal, get it to 17-3, they get the ball coming at a half, you can get it to a 1-score game before Philly touches the ball again. But once he throws that pick to Bond, that just sucked all the life out of the comeback. And again, that one, I mean, Tooney's pushed in his lap, which affected the throw a ton. But yeah, I mean, it was just every time you thought hey, maybe they can get something going here, Philly just snuffed it out. And it's such a credit to what the Eagles and Vic Fangio were able to do as well.
Yeah, and Tom Brady's just living his best life. He, got to call this. The three-peat didn't happen, so there's no, he did something that I didn't do. And then there could have been a mounting, to have a potential for comeback in the second half in the Super Bowl, to win 3 in a row, that is going to sort of put your 28-3 in the shadows. That is something I'm sure he was thinking about, him and his beautifully chiseled face, calling that game, and that it worked perfectly for one Tom Brady, who was sleeping easy tonight.
Oh yeah, for sure. The only person who had anything to say to him was Nick Foles. Yeah.
Good for Nick Foles. Or whatever comedian's taking over his social. I'm loving it.
Now the Eagles get it back. We're going to run some clock, or maybe it's throw the dagger. Hurts going deep for it all. Devontae Smith! He has got it! Touchdown!
Dwight Freeney joining me the morning after Super Bowl 59. I got to ask you, I don't even know where you'd like to start. Maybe just what surprised you most about the Super Bowl and what happened?
Man, there's a lot to unpack. I would say this. What I was surprised about was it wasn't a close game. I thought the Philly, was going to win. The Eagles, they had the number 1 defense coming in. And I was telling everybody this week, I said, look, that's a team that's dangerous. And the reason why they're dangerous is their defense is playing very well. And they're playing great complementary football with how they play offensively. All right, they like to hold on to the ball for a long time. All right, right? You see the possession clock. Kansas City didn't have that many possessions. That's based on how Philly operates their offense. So they don't really get big chunks all the time. Once in a while you have a run by Saquon, but for the most part, it's a very offensive controlled, time controlled offense. So once they get up, it's going to be hard to come back. So when I'm watching this game, okay, and I'm like, all right, let's see what's going to happen. I promise you, in the first quarter, when I saw Jalen Hurts sitting back there, sipping basically mimosas, he had all time in the pocket. Nobody was around him. No one was anywhere near. He could do whatever he wanted, okay? And completing passes, no pressure. And when the Kansas City Chiefs brought pressure, they had all their blitz routes and all their hot routes dialed up, and things were working perfectly in their favor when they decided to blitz. Right. And if you looked at the other side, Patrick Mahomes, it looked very similar to the Tampa game in the Super Bowl, where that offensive line could not hold up. And that defensive line from Philadelphia, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, those guys were getting after it. And they were putting pressure on Mahomes from only 4 down linemen. All right. And I think, me coming from a place where, we didn't blitz a lot. So it was all about the 4 guys up front getting pressure on the quarterback. If you would come up with a perfect scenario defensively, it would be being able to put pressure on the quarterback without blitzing. All right. And that's what they did.
He did. Vic Fangio, OG that he is, so happy. He did not blitz once. The Eagles sacked Mahomes 6 times. Okay. Not one blitz. What made that game plan so effective? Keep going.
Well, that's just what it comes down to, and that's why I love the position of defensive line. That's why I'm in love with pass rushers. That's because it doesn't matter the sweet ass, thing that you draw up on the chalkboard for your offense, the play that's going to guarantee you a touchdown or a first down. You can't account for a defensive lineman just going out, kicking somebody's ass and making a play in the backfield. You can't account for that. All right. And that's what was happening on play in and play out. The defensive line was taking over the game. So maybe there were guys open. But see, Patrick couldn't get there because he had stress. He had a lot of stress in front of his face, a lot of anxiety, because that offensive lineman was not keeping a clean pocket for him. So he was seeing ghosts at times where he felt he needed to hurry up and get rid of the ball because he kept getting hit. And that is a formula that was created from the very beginning of the game all the way throughout that game, where it became high stress for those guys and Patrick. And when he thought he had time, he didn't. So he felt like he had to get rid of the ball. Not only that, the way that they play the game for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs is they like to throw check downs and, eat some clock up as well. This isn't the old Chiefs offense that used to just throw the ball down the field 50, 60 yards and score within 13 seconds. Those years are over with right now. They have a different team. They won a lot of close games. The games were very close this year. All right. They could have easily lost 6, 7 games this year. All right. But they didn't. They're a great team. They won those games. But that tells you that it's a different team you're playing. So now all of a sudden you have a formula that has worked, you're all regular season, dink and dunk and throw the 5-yard pass and throw the 6-yard, whatever out route and throw the Travis and all that stuff works until it doesn't. And when you need to extend the field. And when they got down in the second quarter, they were like, oh shit, we got to figure something out. And it was about too late then. Now you want to balance the game and run the ball, but they were loading the box, okay? So it's a numbers game. If you load the box, what are you going to do? You got to throw the ball.
You just said that Patrick Mahomes was seeing ghosts.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens. That's what happens. You see dead people.
How rattled did he look to you?
I mean, I wouldn't say tremendously rattled, but I would say that his clock sped up. They sped him up because of the pressure that was being brought. He was very uncomfortable. But we've seen Patrick make great plays in pockets before. But see, the difference is their pressure comes from the interior and the outside. So you got D tackles who are beasts that put pressure on him from coming from the inside, right, to out.
Right.
And you have outside guys who are not getting high and coming back inside. So they're kind of conversion on him, and he's feeling that on every single pass play. I don't remember a pass play where he had a comfortable, easy pocket. He was running for his life, and as he should be. And that's just how the game is played. And that's how you beat, these superstar quarterbacks. Because, in the end, he's an amazing player. One of the greatest quarterbacks that has played this game. But none of that matters if you have no offensive line and you have no time to throw the ball. And I don't care what play you have drawn up on that board. It does not matter. That play is not going to work unless you get an offensive lineman to block for you.
I'm trying to think of the lesson in this, right? There's a lot of conversations going on about Patrick Mahomes. You're saying he's an amazing player. This happened against Tampa.
Yep.
He recovered. What does this say, I guess, about Mahomes as these debates are going to go on and what Philly did to him? And is there a long-term impact?
No, the man is a legend already. He's going to continue to do his thing. All they need to do is solidify that offensive line, give him time to throw. Now, how do you do that? It's easier said than done. When you're playing against teams that don't have a great pass rush, great. You're going to have no problem. But when you're going against teams who put pressure on the quarterback, all right, and they can do it from the interior and outside and blitz, he's going to have a problem unless they solidify, that offensive line. Now, you don't blitz him because he's going to read out the blitz. He's going to see the blitz coming. Then all of a sudden, here comes the hot routes. Here comes all the different things that they prepared when you blitz him. But if you don't blitz him, then guess what? You got 7 people in coverage, sitting back in zone coverage. And sometimes you mix in man, looking and seeing what routes they've studied and seeing what's going on there. It's a different game when you can get pressure on a quarterback with 4 guys. Let me say it again. It is a different game when you can do that. It's different when you have to dedicate.
Very hard to replicate what Philly did because they have that D-line.
It's the truth. That's what happened. If you think about, even when Tom Brady and those guys lost on, versus the Giants and when they were undefeated going in, it was that defensive line of the Giants putting pressure on Tom. It's the teams that can put pressure on the quarterback with 4 guys, okay, that you will see these amazing quarterbacks who everyone believes just because you have an amazing quarterback, you're going to win the game just because he's, quote unquote, the best guy on the field, which that's a whole nother discussion I don't even want to get into. But in the end, I get it, but you can't account for that guy who's just destroying your offensive guard, your tackles, and put pressure on you. And all those plays just go away.
You don't think the quarterback's the most amazing guy on the field?
No, but that's, I'm biased.
And I know it. You mentioned Brady. There's a lot of Brady, a lot of GOAT talk, a lot of conversations, lots being made between Brady and Patrick. What did last night do to that debate?
I don't know if it did anything. I mean, to be quite honest with you, Tom's been to 10 Super Bowls. And his, that's based on 20, 23 years. I don't even know how long the guy played for, right? And you have, so many other reasons why he won Super Bowls. It wasn't just Tom. It was a defense played great his first 3-4 years. So, when you talk about Super Bowls, it's not an individual, just one guy out there, and this is the reason why they won. It's a team accomplishment. And, even when you watch this game here, Jalen Hurts, he had all day to throw the ball. All right. He had receivers to make plays for him. He made great plays as well. This is a team accomplishment. So I always hate the debate normally about who's the greatest because of Super Bowls, because it's just not the quarterback out there. This isn't like basketball or maybe tennis where it's a one-on-one matchup or something like that. So I don't really know how much this does for the argument of who's going to be the greatest. of all time. I think that's a messed up argument to begin with. I don't really know, you can't really have that argument, and that's a whole nother segment we can have at another time. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be fine. He's has what, 4 Super Bowls already, or 3, or
Yeah,
whatever it
and
is. I
he's
mean,
a young player. Hopefully, they go all in, like you're saying, on the
yeah.
offensive line. But it is, I love that you just hate quarterbacks. It's my favorite. I mean, my most viral bite with in our one of my most viral bites of the year on the Up and Adam show
Mhm.
was you saying that Patrick Mahomes takes advantage of the soft ass rules. Don't you remember?
Really? No, no. Well, it's the truth.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
truth.
And
They
then
need to do away with that. All right. Once he breaks the pocket and he starts running, let him be just like a normal runner. What's wrong with that? All right.
I,
Let him
I
run. Listen, you run at your own risk. I get it. Behind the line of scrimmage, okay, let's give him all the protections that he needs. I get it. But once he breaks that line of scrimmage and decides
yeah,
to run, he should be treated like a running back. I don't care what anybody says, because because now all of this fake sliding and did he really slide and all that just goes out the window. Listen, you better protect yourself. Just how it used to
yeah.
be back in the day. Protect yourself. You decide to run across the line of scrimmage, you better protect yourself. That's it.
Well, we saw what happens when the defense gets hits on him last night, when the
Yeah.
unease in the pocket and taking so many shots from this insanely complete team and this amazing, amazing Eagles defense. You're happy it was a defensive performance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we'll get to the Eagles side, by the way. I'm sure Eagles fans are like, what are
Okay.
you doing talking about Mahomes and company? We're going to take a break here in a little bit, but why do you think I don't know if you were watching at home. I was there, actually wasn't in the stadium for the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
It was like a really bad start last night for the Chiefs. And
Mhm.
I've been saying it's these 12 pass plays, 1 run play. But why do you think they came out of the gate so flat?
Well, listen, it's not just, it's about what they did defensively. It isn't like they're just out there and no one's out there.
Yeah.
You have to give credit to the defense and what they decided to do. All right. And what they decided to do was they're going to load the box up and force these passes that maybe he didn't want to throw immediately. Maybe they wanted to establish the run. But when you see 8 people in the box and you see, okay, you know what, we can take advantage of this particular thing. Look, you have to throw the ball. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have to maybe dial something up. And it wasn't there based on how the defense was preparing and playing against Mahomes. And it's okay that they didn't, it is what it is. The other team gets paid too. It's not all about, hey, the offensive, Patrick sucks because he didn't, or what the Chiefs. No, how about the defense did what they needed to do? They lined up, they answered the call, they executed the game plan that put the Chiefs, into really bad situations. They got up on them, and now all of a sudden this run the ball, pass the ball. They couldn't do that. So now they have to play into the hands of Philadelphia.
Is this the greatest performance in Super Bowl history? Defensive performance?
I don't know, but I don't know if it's the greatest, but it was a great defensive performance. I couldn't go back. The Super Bowl has been around a long time, so you would have to go
Long
back
time.
to really
Yeah.
figure that out. But I would say, look, they played amazing. They definitely did. The Chiefs, remember, all year, it wasn't like the Chiefs were scoring 50 points. People who keep thinking this was the old Chiefs where they were scoring all these points. These games were close. They had the most close games, I think, in the league this year, and came out on top. So
But I
this
thought they
wasn't
were
a
just
team that
playing
was.
I thought they were just playing down to competition or bored or
No,
fatigued with these Panthers, these Raiders
no,
games. And
no,
yeah. So
no, no. They had,
the issues in your eyes all season long were
yeah.
what for the Chiefs? The O-line? Or what? Or not
It was a
having the
lot.
right
It had a
weapons?
lot to do. It was a mix of both. I think it had a lot to do with the offensive line. They weren't they weren't steady and stout there, where you could do all the things, elaborate plays, and it is also personnel. They didn't have the personnel that you would love to have. You didn't have the Tyreek Hills and guys who can just take the top off the defense the right way, when they don't, they catch a ball and score from wherever. They had to go find receivers in free agency, et cetera, to kind of help their receiving core. This wasn't the same Kansas City Chiefs team people remember. I know It's the same guy. You got Kelsey there, you got Patrick Mahomes, but you got
Well,
Andy Reid, but that doesn't make a team.
yeah. They didn't have Tyreek for 2 of their rings.
Yeah, but the thing is that, and that's my point is this, is they will be fine. Next year, they're going to still have, Patrick's still going to be there, and Andy probably
Yes.
still going to be there, and they're going to still have their same scheme, and they have a great scheme. One game does not make or break you. It sucks to lose a Super Bowl. I've lost 2. I tried to forget about those, but it really hurts. I mean, I think Tom said something, on the cast while we were watching the game, and it made all the sense in the world. You stay up. The ones that you win, it's a great feeling, but the ones that you lose, it just stays with you. It never goes away. And I get it. What's going to happen here? And Patrick, this is going to stay with him for a long time. Even when he wins a couple more, which I think he will, it's going to stay with him. But it is what it is. There's only one happy team at the end of the year. There's 31 pissed off teams because they didn't win the Super Bowl, right? So he just joined the club, right? There's a lot of those guys.
He's felt it before. We'll see what it does to him. We'll take a short break here before. I do want to know, with that Super Bowl loss, you wake up the next day. What is that like?
God.
What was that like for you?
Ugh, disgusting. It's like I didn't talk to anybody for like a month. It was really, really, it's like, listen, I would prefer to not even have gone to the Super Bowl than to lose in the Super Bowl. I would prefer to lose in the first round. I would have preferred to not even have gone to the Super Bowl and lost than to if I lost in the playoffs or I didn't even make it to the playoffs. I would prefer that scenario 10 times than almost getting there to winning the game and not winning.
It's that bad. Do you remember the next day? Do you remember that? Do you remember your flight home?
I was drunk. I don't remember anything.
So did you go to the party?
Terrible.
Did you actually go? You went because you did?
What? No.
Well, I don't know.
You lose.
I feel like
listen.
But both teams have a party, right? So there's like obviously the Eagles are still out and hanging out, but like the Chiefs, they still had a party. You just don't go.
Yeah, you don't go. I don't know if there was a party, but if there was, I didn't go. I didn't know about it. I didn't want to know about it. There was nothing to celebrate. You're either in first or you're in last place in my mind. Second place is a terrible place to be, and I'm not having it. So I bet you a bunch of those guys probably didn't go, and if they did go, they probably had a lot of drinks while they were there.
Amazing. Okay, I think we're in a YouTube break. We're going to come back on the air. How long do we have? I wouldn't have broken there. I would have loved to just take that time on the air. And then we have a minute left? No, we have a minute left? Okay. But we'll be with you, and can we count him down? And then I want to get into the Eagles, which is where we should have started, but then we start talking about Mahomes. What a game.
No problem. It was good. I loved it. Defense. I loved it. I loved it. It was perfect. It was perfect for me.
We'll get into a couple of Eagles questions. It was perfect. Yeah. You're so funny.
It was great, man. When you have the defensive line who seals the game, defense over offense, that's.
I'm so happy for Brandon.
Oh my God, he played great too. I don't know him, but I've been watching him. He plays hard. He plays the game how it's supposed to be played, and
I wonder if he's done now. I wonder if he'll go right off in the sunset.
This is the perfect time to do it. If you're gonna do it now.
You think?
I wish I would have. If I could have.
It was like the weirdest Super Bowl to be in person. We're gonna get back on the air. 1 second.
Okay.
Back on the Up and Adam show with legend and Super Bowl champion Dwight Freeney, kind enough to break down the game, which he loves because it was a defensive performance. He's like, it's as if you won the Super Bowl, I'm sure. Being there in the building last night here in New Orleans, I arrived late and it was just quiet. Even
Yeah.
Eagles fans were doing it, but Super Bowl's always kind of quiet because it's a different mix of people and all of that.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know if I was being stunned or just a comfortable lead for the Eagles. It was the eeriest, weirdest, even the celebration after felt like, there wasn't excitement in the fourth quarter. So it was just kind of like, good game, good game. Like, we know it's coming. It was probably the weirdest Super Bowl that I've ever been to, but we got to give credit to the Eagles, the MVP. We talked the D-line. I do want to get into some quarterback play with you and some offense with the Eagles side because Jalen Hurts wins MVP. Saquon Barkley somehow, I think it was 2.3 yards per carry. He was held in check most of the game, so Spags did his thing defensively there. What did impress you most about Jalen and how he played in a vacuum last night?
I mean, he managed the game perfectly. There was one throw that he probably should have made, and it was an interception. But other than that, I mean, he ran the ball when he needed to run it. When he saw man-to-man coverage and no one had a spy on him, he was running the ball. And he was just managing the game. He was making all the right throws, not taking many risks, not throwing into double teams. Had all day to throw the ball. Hats off to the offensive line. They did a great job offensively that game. Perfect game plan, ball control, just eating away at the clock, milk the clock type of offense, and taking advantage when, the defensive backs are thinking it was going to run and play action and throwing the ball deep. It was a perfect game plan, and I think Jalen had a great game.
Jalen, confident, poised, obviously had that one interception. Here he is after the game. Let's take a listen. I think we have him. Do we have a shot of him after the game?
I can't control what these people think, but if it takes all the hate and all the scrutiny and all the different opinions for me to be a world champion, then keep it coming.
We're talking about what it feels like to lose. He knows what that looks like and what that feels like after having a tremendous game. Like, let's not forget, it's not like he had the worst performance of his lifetime in losing to the Chiefs. He was unbelievable in that loss. It stung. Now he conquered. What does this mean for him? How do you think he should be viewed as he is somehow a polarizing quarterback for doing what you just gave him credit for, managing perfectly?
I mean, I think he did a great job. And I think that, obviously this adds to the legacy of Jalen Hurts. It just adds to it. This is this one thing he can put on his belt that they can never take away from him. All right. The story's not over. The story's just beginning. We'll find out where he ends up in the end, but they'll never be able to take this away. And, he said something in another interview. He's just talking about how this is a team accomplishment. It ain't just about one player. And I love that. I love to hear that because it isn't. And even that loss that he had versus Kansas City in the past, it's not all on him. Sometimes a quarterback gets too much blame when they lose and too much credit when you win. It's usually somewhere in the middle, all right, where it happens. So I think, he has the right mindset. He played an awesome game, and he was hard to stop.
A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, they had the honor of drenching Nick Sirianni at the end of the game. I love that you got to do the same for Tony Dungy back in Super Bowl 41. We were talking about that. How do you think A.J. And Devonta did? I think we have some footage, hopefully. And is there a key to this? How does this go? Who decides who's doing it? Talk me through it.
Well, I don't think there's a who decides who's going to do it. Whoever grabs the Gatorade jug first can do it.
Did you want to do it?
Of course. I've always wanted to dunk. I mean, why not? You got to shout out the coach. And the thing is, look, they did a great job. They turned their back when he thought he was looking. They snuck up on him. You see, there's a strategy to it. You have to make sure that the key is you got to make sure he's talking to somebody. Because if he's talking to somebody, he's obviously distracted. And that's when you strike, right? When he's just not paying attention. Right? When you have somebody have a conversation with him. And that's what they did.
That was you and Booger McFarland, I believe, right?
Yep, me and Booger.
Amazing. And I think they did a great job, that tandem. And then they got into the locker room last night. The Gatorade was gone. It was a frat house. I don't know if you saw this. They're shotgunning beers. I mean, talk me through Saquon here. He does a pretty good job here.
I love it. I absolutely love it. As it should be. It should be. It should be
There's
a
Jeff.
party. There you go, getting it
Oh, here it
done.
is.
And the thing is, yeah, look at it. This is what I'm talking about. This is how you're supposed to celebrate, man. And it brings joy to my heart, and it brings back memories because it's a party all year long. It just all year. It didn't last forever. The whole off season, it's a party, and then you have to get back to work in July. But that tour that we had when we won, it lives with you forever, and it started last night for those guys.
What do you mean a tour? What else happens? What do you mean it's a party all day, all year long?
It's a party. It's a party year all night. Wherever you go, you got people saying, "Hey, congratulations! Let's take a shot." You're drunk the whole entire 3-4 months if you drink. It's golf courses that you're toasting you. You go, you have this party at this place. It's a great time if you're into that thing, and it seems like those guys are having a great time.
And they should with a 40-22 like an unbelievable win over the Chiefs team. I wanted to ask you just a little bit about Nick Sirianni because obviously Fangio is getting a lot of credit, Jalen Hurts getting a lot of credit. I actually I think you have the best, most measured take on how the quarterback should be viewed. It's somewhere usually in the middle as far as getting credit, getting blame. I think that's a very fair take that more people should adhere to. What's the Sirianni in all of this? He just completely outcoached Andy Reid, maybe the greatest head coach of all time.
Absolutely. A lot of credit needs to go to him. He's been criticized for years. And he was actually potentially on the chopping block at some point. People were thinking that he wouldn't even have a job this year. He's done a great job. He's turned that organization around. He has those guys playing for him, playing hard. His decision to go more of a running offense, not thinking about throwing the ball every single play was probably the best decisions they made all year. Obviously acquiring Saquon was huge because now you're forced to run it because you have a dog back there, Saquon Barkley, who can put up yards. So now you have to run it. And he just all year round, I forgot how many games they won in a row. I don't know if it's like 10 or 11 or whatever it was. But the formula was, play amazing defense, right? You can't have defense is blue collar. You ain't no hiding it. You're playing hard. You're playing great defense for a reason, and you continue that throughout the playoffs. And you run the ball, and that's what they did. Right? Yeah. Even though they had weapons outside, where they could have thrown the ball and thrown for 300-400 yards. That's not the formula for the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl. And they stuck to who they were, and they run the ball, and they did an amazing job.
And it's hard to do. It's hard to say that discipline, consistency, 10 wins in a row, and then the media is trying to eat you from the outside in, talking about A.J. Brown. Also, just the ability of him to balance some of those personalities, bringing in Saquon, which I think Saquon, I know he didn't have a big game yesterday, but the fact that he is not a give me the ball, he is I don't care, I just want to win. His role in that, alongside Sirianni and everything, just to make everything sort of work in concert, I think doesn't get enough love. It's such a good point that people were questioning if he's the guy. If he can be the guy, if he can whatever. And what an FU to everybody last night. I couldn't love it more for him.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, the guy he's produced winning seasons year in and year out. People have this too high of a standard of what a head coach should be or what a quarterback should be or what a player should be. There's only even one of the greatest that's played the game in Tom. They've had bad years and bad seasons. It happens. It is what it is. It's just part of the game and how it goes. You have your ups and you have your downs. And they've had a lot more ups than they had downs. And Sirianni's done a great job of managing all of that. And he has a formula that's working for him. So I'm happy that he's won the big one. And he can ride out to the sunset if he wants, but he's not. He's going to be back next year, and hopefully they do it again. And that's just how it is. That's the game.
I wanted to ask, you're so happy this morning. I love this for you. I do want to, before I let you go, you've got some new friends entering the Hall of Fame. New class, smallest class in 20 years. Did a lot of talking to Emmitt Smith and Chris Carter and company about that over the weekend. What do you think, Dwight Freeney, of the committee only using those 4 instead of 7?
Look, you know what? They had a conversation with us last year in one of the meetings, and they said we're going to make it tougher to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Really?
And they believe that it should be a little bit tougher. They wanted it to be a tough place to get into. They didn't want it to be, no offense to the other sports like basketball, you got this guy, that guy, the other, and they just kind of like, next you have a class of like 10 people. They wanted to be more an exclusive place. So they decided this year, I didn't know how many they were going to go with, but they decided to go with, a smaller class and to make it tougher for guys to get in.
Do you like
you
that?
know what? Well, I like the exclusivity part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people deserving to be in it. It's a hard job to do because you have so many great players who've done so many great things that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think eventually everyone's going to get in that people feel like they should be there at some point. It's just the thing is at some point. When is that point? You have to go through this every year. You got guys like Reggie Wayne, who's been on the finalist list forever, and he hadn't got in. He's deserving of being in it, but you can't say some of the guys who've made it isn't deserving to be in it as well. So it's a tough decision, tough job of the guys who pick the Hall of Famers who's going to go in, and now it's going to get even tougher because they're making a tougher to get in. The criteria.
I mean, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, 2 of your teammates, I'm
That's what
sure that you think deserve to be.
They all deserve. They all deserve it. And it's a tough thing. Like my first year, I thought, hey, this is the year for me, and it didn't happen for me. I wasn't the first ballot, like everyone was saying I was going to be. Okay, fine. What's going to happen next year? And I thank God I got in. It's going to be like that for a lot of guys. It's not an easy process.
Why
But,
do you think
why
do you think they want to make it more exclusive now? I mean, it's been a debate. I like the exclusive. I like that, I was a little surprised Kuechly didn't get in as a first ballot, but if it's, to keep the integrity and the high standard, why do you think that that's a thing right now? What made that change?
You know what? I just think that for them, when they looked at it from different sports and how they wanted to be, above all the others. And I'm not sure how many baseball guys get in. I know, I think that's one of those leagues that, only a few guys get in. So maybe more like baseball. I don't know. But I know they didn't want it to be, as saturated, I guess, as basketball, where, you every year you're like, okay, this guy barely averaged, this amount of points a game. He's in the NBA Hall of Fame. And, it's kind of like, but it's not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So you got guys like Yao Ming getting into the Basketball Hall of Fame, but he didn't have an amazing NBA career, but he had a great global career. So it's just kind of weird. So I think maybe that's what the NFL is trying to do, where it's like, look, it's going to be tougher. It's going to be when you make it, people are going to really like it. Was really hard.
I like
they didn't want to go down the path.
This is my favorite thing I've heard you say today. I love that that's how it is. Hey, do you feel sad for Eli?
No, I don't. and I'm not saying that just because he's a quarterback. I promise you, I'm not saying
Why
that.
aren't you sad for Eli? Come on. You're not sad?
Because Eli was an amazing player. He had a great career. He's going to have his time in the sun. It's okay. All right.
You think they got it right?
I think they picked some really good guys. I mean, I think there's a bunch of guys they could have picked. I think that
I want you to tell me
that
you don't think Eli, you think they got it right. He was not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think that Eli had a great career. And if you're defining first ballot as complete game record changers, you have to stop this guy or it is going to be a wreck, then no. But he's a Hall of Fame.
Yes, for sure.
You see what I'm saying too? So like if your criteria is, hey, this guy is a complete game record, we cannot win this game and we should block this guy, or this guy is going to throw for 500 yards and da-da-da-da. Look, Eli had a great career. And I think it's
Yeah.
definitely Hall of Fame worthy, and he should be there. He's one of the best postseason quarterbacks there is. Watch as they get. But when you're talking about first ballot, if that is what your criteria is for first ballot, then no.
I like a high standard. You have a high standard. That's why you're the best. Dwight Freeney, thank you for joining us on our Super Bowl Monday show. When I was watching the game yesterday, I was like, I'm so lucky that it's Dwight that's coming on tomorrow, because this is like a total perfect fit for you to break down and love it, and the smile saying it all. Love reliving Super Bowl 41 with you as well. Thank you so much for joining the show, and we'll hopefully talk soon.
Absolutely. You take care.
See you, Freeney. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back on Up and Adams. So funny. No, I don't feel bad for Eli, he says, Ham. So freaking funny.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Okay, I'm just going to thank Kristen for my cute outfit. Kristen,
we've had this talk about the Hall of Fame before. I love a high standard, and I would always err on.
I don't know if that's like news or not, but potentially that's news that I don't know that they had a meeting about. Did you?
No, I had no idea. Definitely get that. Whoa.
Yeah.
That is.
I'm living the best one.
Not yeah. I've not been able to eat for a week, so that's yeah.
Get out of here.
Torture. What?
You're lucky I'm talking to you, Matthew. I'm just going to eat bananas on the air. Welcome back to the Up and Adams show. Big thanks to Dwight Freeney. Big thanks to Kat Rogerson for dropping off beignets at my hotel. Big thanks to Kristen Juszczyk, who sent me her amazing puffer for the Super Bowl. What a freaking game. We're going to unpack this all week long. Maybe I should go to Philadelphia. Should I just take a flight to Philadelphia right now? I don't know why. I love you guys. Travel safe.